Can you guys all just say hello in a regular voice?
Hello.
Hello.
Just turn this up a bit. This is fantastic. I'm so happy everybody's here. Okay. We're going to set this here. Sorry, we have a variety of technologies operating to make this very exciting and international, like we always hoped this would be. Welcome to the second Saturday Artist Talk, the first in this new aggregate space facility at 1255 26th Street, Suite 101. All right, so this is, we've been doing this Artist Talk for, now, I think since 2014 was when we started it. It's coming up on 6 years of hosting these Saturday morning talks on the second Saturday in the middle of an exhibition. And for me, the goal is about laying down a level of legacy to the exhibitions and additional information that people can use to evaluate the work. I try to dissuade people from talking specifically about their work, but I think in this context with 6 of the groups of artists that are in this exhibition, we may lean a little bit more heavily into talking about content. But I hope that 5 years from now, you all can look back at this YouTube video that will hopefully be sitting on YouTube still and listen to the way you talked about your work and the ideas that you were having now and use that to consider what you're working on at the time. And I hope aggregate, we can look back at how exciting it was that this was a bit of a mess of an event, because this is the first time we put this event on in this space. And this space has only been a gallery for about 24 hours. Prior to like yesterday morning, it was a complete wreck in here still. So all the paint's fresh, it probably still smells like that. All the videos are new and running. There were plenty of technical difficulties that we dealt with even right up till and through the opening. So thank you all for your patience. And after we're done with the talk, we're going to turn all the audio back on for all the pieces, clear all the tables and chairs out, and you guys can hang out, have some more snacks, and feel free to talk about the work and participate in it again. Sorry, this is an extra long intro because of all the new things. So we're gonna talk for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll swing things into a little bit of a question and answer period. I'll make some other announcements about the show, but to introduce what the video open call is for aggregate, so this is the 7th time we've done this. We did it at the very beginning of our 3rd year as an organization as a way to these last few years. And we always believed very strongly, I personally believe very strongly, that video really can do something else when you're showing it next to other video. And so when you can kind of create a conversation, just like you would create a normal conversation with paintings, or curatorially create a conversation between sculpture and paintings and video, that video running on different loops concurrently with sound that bleeds and with imagery that bleeds can really generate a new type of experience. And so when we put out the video open call, we do it without a theme. And we include, I invite jurors, Shage was very involved this time. And we kind of rate things blindly. We don't look at where people are from or what their, what their name is, or we don't look at their website. We just watch the work, take some notes, think about it in terms of just a general quality that kind of gets built through an equilibrium as you begin to watch the work. And this year, this work that we started to notice was all non-male, singular individuals dealing with life in a challenging way. And once we started to kind of see that theme come out in a lot of the really, really strong work, it became clear that this was what the show needed to be about. And the idea of invulnerable roots came from us just really talking about, like, what does it mean to be strong in a non-patriarchal way? And what does it mean to kind of evaluate a future and take take part in that as female and trans people. So, and like a lot of you guys offered feedback on the language of the exhibition, which I really, really appreciate. But I just want to welcome everybody to Invulnerable Roots, to this space, to this new part of Aggregate, and then welcome you guys here. So I'm going to do proper introductions now. Thank you. I'm sitting next to two individual artists and an artist team. So we have Sophia and Nick. Thank you guys for coming, who produced the piece that's right actually behind you guys. And we have Kiana, your last name is Honorman? Honorman? Okay. I appreciate that. It's always hard. And then Deepa Neer? Yes. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And visiting us, would you guys...
I'm in Vancouver, BC.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. Stephanie?
Yeah, to be here.
Stephanie?
Yep, I'm Stephanie Bird, and I'm currently in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Fantastic. And Can and Melton.
Yeah. Well, this is Melton, and my name is pronounced actually John.
John?
Yeah, like John.
Oh, great. Okay. I will.
Yeah, we're from Turkey, Istanbul.
Fantastic.
Yes, and I'm Meltem. I'm currently living in Istanbul also.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is really incredible.
Yeah, same here, Turkey.
So I think I'd love to just start by talking about what the current world situation, whether that be politically or socially, what that led to in terms of influencing this piece of work that you guys produced for this exhibition, and what that means, and you can take that however you want. I don't want to influence you too much, but I feel like there's a lot of frustrations and excitement and disappointments in the world right now, and I think a lot of you are addressing it through your work, and I just would like to get a little bit of perspective on that. Nir, would you like to begin?
Sure. I wasn't really thinking of it as a political piece when I started thinking of the story itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it started with the idea of trying to be true to yourself. And I was thinking of, I have a 9-year-old, I was thinking in terms of how kids are more in tune with their emotions, and it's so much easier for them to express themselves. And then I thought of, as you grow older, especially if you're a woman, and especially if you're a woman of color, it becomes difficult to express truthfully what your feelings are, what your viewpoints are. So, and then I also have a background in classical Indian dance. So we have this concept of the 9 emotions, which all the classical dancers use. And these are very basic emotions that you use to tell a story on stage. So I was thinking of how if we could kind of build that trope of the 9 emotions into our daily lives, where we are truthfully and sort of honestly embracing it. So that's what the piece is about, where this woman doesn't express anything in the beginning, and then as the story moves forward, she starts, and she's wearing a mask. So the mask starts cracking when she takes and embraces one emotion at a time. So the emotions range from joy and all those positive emotions to anger. And I think that was a piece that I started with, the idea of the angry woman, which is usually a difficult thing to accept for the society. But without anger, we are not angry about many things, and we should be rightfully angry about things. There is no way to move beyond that. So that piece kind of came from a lot of things that were happening, but I also wanted to bring dance in and movement, because I believe that it is deeply therapeutic in nature. So then it sort of became a non-narrative piece. So that's where it came from. Yeah, I mean, I don't know which way it's going, but that was the source of it. But you're right in saying that all these, the anxiety about our political situation, the social condition, it kind of feeds into many works, but I didn't want it to be very overtly political. But it's definitely there as a subtext somewhere.
Well, I think we all know that being an artist is an overtly political act currently. Like, we don't have a choice. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here and sharing my work.
Yeah, sure. So my work in general is about my background and cultural identity as an Iranian woman. Different things that I grew up with, and also my identity as a Middle Eastern in the US during this time where our countries are in conflict, which has been, especially during the last few months, has been really rough. But this video came out of this series that I've been working on for the past few years, which have this title of the series is Unveil, and it's about mandatory hijab in Iran. So just like as a brief explanation, in Iran, when women go outside of their houses, they are required by law to cover their bodies, and like the name started as a way for me to like protest those things. And the way the government uses a lot of propaganda against women by using like words like Ershad, which means like guidance, or words like Efaf, which mean purity and chastity, to manipulate people and like justify their oppression. So I was using a lot of words that I found in their propaganda, and I was cutting those words away out of different garments as a way to protest, but also use their words to subvert the meaning behind the garments. And this video came out of this, it was a performance where I did that. I was cutting away some of the words from the garment, and as I was wearing it, I was trying to sew it back on as a way to heal all of these psychological things that happen during this type of oppression. And then, of course, in the end, the result isn't it's not the original garment. It's something that is really full of stitches and obviously different from the beginning.
Thank you.
And thanks for having my work in the show.
Thank you. Sophie, Nick?
Yeah. So this film we made kind of almost directly after the campfire, with everyone's probably here with all the suffocation and the dread and just not knowing when it would end. That directly influenced the themes within our work, and the pieces kind of got this person that's dealing in the future, indeterminate future, and holding a lot of trauma and pain from the society that is no longer there, and how trauma, institutional trauma, really resides within the body, and how it can feel like you're attacking yourself at times.
Yeah, and we really wanted to convey hopelessness through the visuals, and has a lot to do with the red scar, just very constricted, and just really kind of hammering down the feeling of suffocation and isolation within the piece. How the institutions build such a sense of hopelessness and loneliness.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we were specifically focusing on giving one particular political stance, but that was a large influence.
No. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
How about John?
In the US, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic.
Well, we've been working with Malcolm over 2 years, actually, over 2 years together in various both dance projects, theater projects. We're actors actually, but we like to work at creating a rhythm in a work that's generated by the emotions that we have during in daily life, in our film, in our you know, like cut between the virtual world and the real world. Like try to, you know, create his her own reality through the social media and facing with this like exaggerated way of material, you know, like we are sent by these big companies to represent them via this influence and stuff. So we wanted to take this character, you know, who's influencing many people through the social media, and but you know, isolated by the society or other people, from other people in her own world. Looks like a cave, maybe created from many boxes, which what we were inspired was basically Pluto's allegory of cave, you know, like what's reality happening there, you know, people are facing to the wall, chained, cannot move their faces against the wall. The only reality of them is just, you know, what they see, what is reflected to the wall. So it seemed pretty similar to the social media world that we're using these days. You know, we have these phones and devices, and we are creating our own realities through these two-dimensional images. And we wanted to create that feeling, like series of that feelings, like what's the rhythm of that feeling, you know, like also it seems similar to us, you know, this content flow, image flow that we see in Instagram or stuff, looked very similar to the image flow that runs through our consciousness, through like we are having anxiety attacks or feeling anxious during the day. You know, we see this image, like, you know, let's say you are arguing with your parents or your partner, or you just got out of this audition, or like, what do you say, work interview, you know. And you keep thinking about, when you're anxious, you keep thinking about these past events, and the image flows like this, and you know, it seems very similar to us, that to today's social media world, you know, like the content and the image part is similar. So we want to take it this way, you know, isolating from this world via, you know, bunch of images, like lots of content. Like, you know, it's kind of like suffering from those, but actually we kind of like those images and that suffering, you know. So that's like the it's similar to the feeling, you know. Like we have this world pain. It's called Weltschmerz, our film, the video, which means that world pain, right? Exact translation, but in the subtext it means that, you know, the melancholy of not reaching the perfection in the world. You know, we idealize a world which is perfect, but we never get there. So this blank between those two like creates this cloud of moodiness, melancholy in our daily people's life. Yeah. So like we try to kind of research that area via like abstracting the movements from the daily postures.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Stephanie, some thoughts on the current state of things and how it fit into your work?
Sure. So for my piece, The Richter's Edge, that when I originally made that piece, that I was really, what I was thinking about was the world of screen-based technology and digital mediation, which is always, I always feel like when I'm doing Skypes or talks like this, like such rich fodder for research of like these forms of digitally mediated communication. They're always inherently comical to me for some reason. But for that piece that I was referencing, the history of the breath test, if you're familiar with this. So before the invention of the stethoscope, so to prove life, that people would place a piece of a mirror or a small glass underneath somebody's nose to see if somebody was still breathing. And I was thinking about how a screen could be a proof of life and the sort of tension between digitally mediated communication and embodied connections. That typically when we engage with the screen, that it is a way for us to escape embodiment, that we're less aware of our bodies, that it's a form of, if you think about going to the movie, it's typically a form of escapism, that you sort of leave your body and your consciousness transcends into this other world that's created. But I was thinking of how could I create a screen-based experience that makes someone more aware of their own embodiment, more aware of their corporeal and physical self. And so referencing this idea of the breath test and how we're currently engaging with screens, and how and I see this in younger generations as well, that there's this sort of new difficulty in interpersonal communications when there's not that divide, when there's not that sort of barrier or filter. And from that research and those interests that I had created the Razor's Edge, and so the way that piece was made was that there's a suspended panel of glass that's very, very cold. And as these people approach this panel of glass, as they breathe, that you see this sort of magical moment where the breath appears and it is made visible on the screen. And when it's shown on a monitor, that it looks as if the individual is breathing on that glass, so making you very much aware of the screen, of that barrier, and again, like the Razor's Edge, like that dividing line. And the way that people have told me that they respond to that piece is by becoming more aware of their bodies, more aware of their own sort of breath and their own physical experience. First time I've actually sung that piece where it is only the female identified participants that were part of that project. And so that was kind of in response to the theme of this show, and it was a curious idea of how does this piece change when it's not just about a generalized sort of embodiment and experience of the world, but it becomes about people who identify as female and their experiences in the world. So that was an interesting challenge for me and an interesting sort of adaptation to see that work evolve and become about the female experience. So, and I'm like with you, I'm jealous of the people that are actually there in the room. The show sounds absolutely phenomenal, and I'm really jealous that I can't see it, particularly now that I'm hearing more about these works and these fantastic pieces. So I appreciate all the efforts that have gone on to make this happen.
Thank you so much. And so I'm going to just give some background. The piece that Stephanie applied with was excerpts from a 9-channel version of this piece that had a whole variety of individuals breathing into the glass. And when the themes started to come together, this is something that we very rarely do, except for installation works, because again, like with this show, we're showing it on our technology and largely on our terms, in order to kind of generate a larger cohesive experience. And we just reached out to Stephanie and just said, hey, would you consider doing an edit that just had female identifying characters? And Stephanie, I think I would have worked with it either way, but Stephanie said, yeah, I'd love that'd be interesting. Let's just see what that does. And I explained a little bit over the phone about like what I thought the piece would do, where we were going to put it, because at that point I knew that it was going to be this kind of dividing line between these more surreal pieces versus these pieces that are kind of depicting a character in an environment, and that the sound would be experienced throughout the whole exhibition, no matter which piece you were participating in. That there would be this breathing, which you guys haven't experienced because the sound isn't on. And so there's this heartbeat level, consistent metronome, the time code to the exhibition that's created by that piece of work, which I think influences all the other pieces of work and kind of lays them in a different sort of time code. So,
yeah.
Thank you again.
And I'm really excited that to see that as this new sort of version of this work. I thought that was very intriguing to think about it in a new way, to experience it in a new way. So I'm happy for the opportunity to be in conversation with these works and for this work to kind of take on a new sort of flavor by being presented in this way. So I'm just jealous I can't see it in person.
Well, you got a lot of time. It's up to like early March, you know.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
I'll try.
Thank you so much. Emily, how did you pronounce it? Oh, your sound is Emily.
The first E has like an accent.
Oh.
I never write it though.
Oh, okay.
So the work that's on exhibition is called The Art of Food, and it is a 5-channel video that features 5 different women working in trade industries. And the project actually started on a more macro scale for me rather than a global or political conversation. As an artist, I think I've always had a sort of fascination with labor and repetitive actions, and also people who work with their hands. The work is structured like a musical fugue, so each woman is working in their own channel, and it comes together through the use of repetition and imitation between them and their respective trades. They all come together like a chorus. So when I was sort of coming up with the concept of the work, I knew I wanted to work with trade industries, and there's a lot of power and strength and tenacity, I think, with that female voice. It's not a literal voice. There's no literal music. It's simply like women who work in trade industries. So for me, you know, the conversation about women in these sort of traditionally male roles came a little later on for me, especially when I was trying to get in touch with female performers, right? But they work in real trades. So there's a mechanic, a machinist, an arborist, a painter, and a plumber. And I was trying to sort of create this musical ensemble, and it is really hard to track down women working in these trade industries. You know, it still is very male dominated, and there are not lots of women who are looking to go into these fields. I think that is changing, but it's still very much a male atmosphere. And so the women's opportunities or roles, you know, a lot of strength, I think, comes out from just a viewer seeing that happen. But also for me as an artist, getting to know 5 different people, they are incredible humans. And they have to go through so much just to do their job, right? It's not something that we necessarily think about, but you know, until they're doing like the machinist that I was working with, she works in an all-male factory. There's like 50 people on the floor, and they're making these like machines, they're using machines to make big metal parts. They're making like these, liquor going into like a saw mill sort of factory. And there's like 50 men, and then there's her, and she is different in this group of people, and they had to make a bathroom specifically for her. There was no bathroom or like change room space. And then the arborist who works on an all-male crew. But then there were 3 other women, so there's a mechanic, a plumber, and a painter. They all owned their own business, and they said it was like really hard working for other people because they didn't really have much of a voice. And so they started their own businesses, and a lot of them hired other female trade workers. So, and that's just to give other women a chance to be hired, because a lot of men in those industries won't necessarily consider hiring a woman. There's still sort of a barrier there, and I don't know if it's conscious for a lot of people, but I think what goes through someone's head still is like, oh, this woman can't chop down a tree. He's just so small, you know, those kinds of things. And it's just really amazing sort of how this project has opened my eyes to women in trade work.
Thank you so much, Emily. So your work is in a different facility today, but we'll be back in this space on Thursday. So it's currently on the display today from 1 to 5 at Warehouse 416 in the previous version of Aggregate's set-down space. And that space gets a lot of foot traffic. And even though we had some technical difficulties yesterday, like a few hundred people saw that, whereas this exhibition is more of a destination. And the people that kind of came through here came through with a lot of deliberateness. So a lot of people got to experience that piece and its sound work throughout last evening, and hopefully again today. So I really appreciate all of you guys speaking to that. I mean, I think I want to welcome you guys to certainly talk to each other a little bit, especially those that have seen the rest of the works, you know, throughout the rest of this. I just wanted to kind of lay a little bit of a groundwork to your work and talk about it in that one after another sort of way for now. But now we can like open up and relax a little bit. But I was hoping that you guys all could talk a little bit about what it means to, some of you are performing the work yourselves, and others are working with professional performers, actors, and I want to hear from you about what that collaboration means, and how you know, how finding that place with a collaborator, even if it's yourself, what that means to your work.
So I did work with a professional dancer, and so I knew her a little bit because I worked on a project that she was making. So there was some kind of, I really didn't know her very well, but she wasn't an absolute stranger either. So there was, and also I also learned the same dance that she does, although she's way great, much more talented because I didn't really pursue it. So it was easy to talk about what exactly I had in mind and the vision, because as a dancer she understood that. And so I just told her that this is what we are doing, and the rest was actually just, there wasn't a lot of directing in the sense of saying that, okay, let's do this, but more like a general idea of what I had in mind with the project. And we actually filmed this in my place, which is in a room with a black background, and I wanted to hire women crew workers, so that was a deliberate choice I did. So it was like a very small skeleton crew of 2 people maybe, and they hadn't seen this form before, so it was a great experience for them. So she was able to talk to them. So that in between the takes, she would actually tell them what she was doing, and she would ask them, so what did you feel? What do you think this emotion was? So it was very interactive in that way. So I think that kind of, it was very spontaneous, and then that spontaneity at some level did seep into the video. The second, it's very touristy, so it was very hard to get just like a 1 or a 2 minute frame without anybody in the frame, because people were weaving in and out. So that was tricky, but it was, because it was a very small crew, it was just her and then me and an assistant camera person. We kind of just worked together. So it wasn't very hard to collaborate, I think, because it was visioned as a very experimental piece. There was a lot of room to work with that. It was very unscripted that way. So it was fun. I mean, we had a lot of fun working together, and I think people who hadn't seen that film went home kind of with a sense of having watched a new performance.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's great. Kiana, you're performing your piece tonight, right, at Root Division?
Yeah,
So-
I'm actually doing a performance at Root Division tonight, so if you're free and around.
Yes, Root Division is a huge ally of Aggregate, and always has been. So I mean, and you said this is a version of several. I mean, what you know, what is it like kind of recapturing that performance for video purposes, for film purposes?
So I actually did the performance for video first, and then kind of moved on to doing the performance for the audience. I guess to me it was really important to just do it for like myself in front of a camera first, because it's such a personal, like, private experience. So I just feel like I wanted that to happen first before I could go with it to a public place, and because I think it's such a vulnerable thing to talk about and admit, and so for me it was important to do it for myself first.
Right. I mean, and how many versions have you done?
So actually this was the first, and tonight will be the second.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's very new.
Very new. That's amazing. It's powerful. I mean, it's the longest piece by far, I think, in the exhibition. So it's this thing that doesn't do a lot of overlap with the other works, but because of it being ongoing, and because you can relatively predict what's going to happen at the end of the loop. You know, it becomes a very reliable piece experientially, and has this forward progress against aggression, which is something that I feel like a lot of this work is addressing in some way or another.
Yeah.
Thank you. You guys, can you talk about your process of putting this together?
Sure.
Was it your first collaboration?
This is our third collaboration.
Cool.
I don't know how to answer it.
That's fine. That's what I'm here
Yeah.
to. That's why we're collaborative.
Yeah.
Duo.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we met through working on various film sets,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, just the experience there. Well, it was good. Just it wasn't what either of us really wanted to get out of the experience, and we both approach art in different ways individually, but we both lean more experimental.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, you like that? You like that too? Great, let's do some stuff together.
I think it's also been like a good learning process.
Yeah,
So
for
both of us have like separate knowledge, and so this has really been like an ongoing knowledge sharing, and a really great space to be able to explore different things and movements. Like I'm not a dancer. We've both done a little bit of acting, and we both are comfortable in front and behind the camera. But for this piece, it was a very big trust, I think, experiment. While even though I'm in front of the camera, it was still very collaborative how we filmed it. We co-edited together, we did the sound design together, did the text together. It's very much us next to each other, being talking back and forth for hours, which I think is really important for us, that there's that ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, it's such an important thing to have that trust between each other, to really make a cohesive piece that we both feel communicated exactly what we both wanted.
What percentage do you feel like you found in the edit versus when you were capturing the performance? Do you think were you a little bit more free with the performance, or did you kind of have some ideas of what you really wanted to get before you moved into the editorial process?
We definitely had a plan going in, and a lot of it went out the window. But the initial plan was found again through different cuts and different edits that we did in post. So it kind of made a full circle. And we also found different ways we wanted to express things with obstacles. We couldn't film another scene, so we had to cut something together differently, but we still came up with something that was true to what we still wanted to say.
Yeah, I would say the movements are improvised, but repeated over and over again, taking these emotions and themes and really seeing how that plays out in the body. And we knew we wanted to be using all the sounds are pretty much just of me breathing or a fabric, and kind of manipulated just a little bit from that. But we really wanted to engulf someone's experience. When you put on the headphones, you can feel all that tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's switch it up. Stephanie, would you like to talk about your experience working with those performers and how you kind of came to that?
Sure. Most of my practice is highly collaborative. I would say this one, it's deceptively difficult what I was asking them to do. That the instructions were there's a suspended panel of glass, just take a couple of steps and breathe. That's it. It sounds so simple. But in that process, it was that they're confronting the camera and confronting this lens, and there was such like a tension and an intimacy in that room it was a very vulnerable sort of an experience, and that was a surprise for me in the production aspect of being in that room and this like the simplicity of being very, very present with yourself and your breath and trying to clear your mind as much as possible, and seeing some people that it was just so easy to slip into that state and be so completely present. And for others, it was just, you could see the struggle, the micro expressions on their face of like how difficult it was to do this task. And I had several parts of the performance that I would become teary-eyed, or somebody that was doing this act would have to kind of take a pause, but for how emotional it became for them. And all of the people that are part of that series have some sort of a relationship with either film, photography, video installation, that either they're film historians or they are photographers or filmmakers or some sort of a relationship with the camera. And for, I don't know about this group, but for me, I know I'm far more comfortable on the other side of the camera. And to ask me to be in front of it, it feels kind of, you feel very naked, right? Like there's something about being behind and being the one who watches and observes, but being in front and being observed, it's a very different sort of an experience. So it's,
how many people did you work with total? How many people did you work with total?
I think about 14 or 15, and quite a few ended up kind of not making the cut for whatever reason. I learned the hard way, don't work with children. Right? Like the rule in filmmaking, don't, if you're working with animals or children, like give yourself 3 times as much time. And yeah, it's very interesting of the people that you think might really, this would be something that would be very easy for them, and how difficult it could be. And of course, to be fair, I also did this exercise to be fair for the people that were kind enough to work with me on this experience. And for this project, it also works for me as an archive of these people, that sort of this archive of people at the moment in our lives, that I have that of like this preservation of this moment and these people. And like referencing the history of portraiture, of preserving the self, and also referencing the history of, even though it functions as a living portrait of like this breathing, the breath, as a living portrait, but for me it references this history of photographic portraiture. And I think for me, photography, and in a way filmmaking too, that in its core, it's about mortality. When I think about it, like we really pare it down to its absolute core, it's about mortality and our struggles, like we wrestle with this, of the impermanence of the things in our lives. So for me, that was a way of creating this shared collaborative experience in that room, and also to create these archives of these people, and sort of having this discussion about our shared relationship with the lenses and camera, lens-based media.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
John and Melton, your collaboration was it the first time you guys worked together, or is it ongoing?
No, actually it was not the first time. 2 years ago we played in a dance project together, and we met there actually. After that, we really wanted to produce something with together, because our, I don't know, energy is so productive.
Like fitting each other, you know, like we started to speak the same language.
Yes.
And we started some improvisations. And in August, I think we decided, John came with an idea, the Welshman, and we decided to take a
film.
Yeah.
Like as I said, like we've been working in a studio like over a year, I think like a year and 2 months maybe, and we've been doing like improvisations about this daily gestures, you know, how can we reform this gestures, you know. So our perception is like different while we are looking at the camera, you know, like all the perceptions are using different data that are coming in, rather than, you know, like when you open up your perception like this in a daily basis. So like how we've been trying like gestures, sequences while improvising and stuff. And then we decided to take a film out of it. I mean, I wanted to do was like, you know, I adore her movement style and like how she reacts, what I think and stuff. So like there was a good collaboration between us since then. And the interesting part was for me, you know, like when I ask something for her, she just like comes up with this sparkling idea of movement, and then he gives the good stuff. But like working with the camera was like interesting because I didn't want it to be as a showing her just, but you know, it seems to be kind of like a duo between this camera and the performer, which created a flow. I think that was our intention actually. So it was a good experience for us.
It is
basic thing.
It was easy because we know each other. When John had a rehearsal for his theater play, and I was in John's place, and I was closing all the boxes, the brands.
Also, she did the art director part of it.
Excellent.
Hundreds of boxes.
It was good. It was easy because we trust each other, and everything was really good.
Yeah. I mean, and until the final shot, it does feel like the camera is like an embarrassed onlooker in the piece. That it's somebody that's there but doesn't maybe even want to be, and it's really striking, particularly the first minute or so as the emerging happens, or the birth, or whatever you would call that part of the piece. And so I like that you consider that a collaboration between characters, even though that one's not present. That's really interesting to think about.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's like we wanted to create that, and it's nice to hear that you guys are like, you know, seeing it. And
yeah, people, and also your piece, the audio bleeds into the rest of the exhibition, and so there's an additional urgency to the phone ring and the heartbeat, the music of that piece that kind of influences the tension throughout the rest of the exhibition. So again, thank you for allowing me to put your work in that situation.
Oh, thank you. We're so happy for this collaboration.
Emily, the finding of those female tradespersons, were they artists as well, or were they only in the trades? Oh, that's fantastic.
I've never met any of them before this project.
Wow.
They picked me fairly organically through friends and friends and friends. One of them is from Craigslist. I received a grant to produce it, so it gave me a little leeway in that I could pay the people that, I could pay all the women. So I guess like, what I mean to say by that is like, it was not that I could use them, I guess like I felt more comfortable being in their environment, knowing that they were being compensated for their work.
Right.
It was also like, I had an additional camera person with me, and that was the first time I worked with another camera person. Her name is Shebnam, and she's an incredible artist. Like, as a visual artist, I'm not a natural director at all. I'm kind of awkward, and I feel uncomfortable saying, "Oh, can you do that action again? Do this one again?" I'm way out of my comfort zone in the production of an art. Where I start to get really creative is in post-production, when I'm editing by myself in an editing sort of cave. Yeah, but so I guess the original question, finding women was difficult, but organic.
Fantastic. Cool, thank you guys. Thank you all so much. So I'm gonna make a couple of announcements and then we'll just open this up to questions. So this exhibition is open until March 7th. We may extend that a little bit because we don't have a lot going on in this room right after that, so we may extend that. But Aggregate is still existing in 2 places, 3 places today, but after today we'll be back to 2 places. And our exhibition of Jefferson Pinder's work in the San Francisco Art Institute main campus gallery on 800 Chestnut Street is ongoing until the end of March. And so if you get a chance to go check that out, that's an exhibition that was funded generously through National Endowment for the Arts and Andy Warhol Foundation. And it was something that was in the works for a really long time, and when we were displaced, we were really searching for a place to make it happen, and SSAT was wonderful to give us the use of their whole definitely non-video art gallery that we put a significant amount of effort into transforming it into an acceptable place to show a 6-channel video piece. So please go check it out. It's up until the end of March, and it's really, really wonderful. But it's also open Tuesday through Saturday, so it's open a lot of the time. And then as for this space, after March 7th, when this exhibition comes down, we're going to have a huge kickoff to a year-long fundraiser on March 20th. And really what our goal is to take what was at our previous space at 801 West Grand and largely rebuild a version of that in the upstairs space. And so when you get a chance at the end of this, you guys can go upstairs and see what the rest of this facility is like. We hope to transform this room into more of a flexible community space, something that we can have very different programming than our video and installation programming, and something that can be active in the community in a way that we never could afford to be at our previous space. And so we really look forward to becoming a place in the neighborhood that people can come to and hang out in, and then have those people also possibly participate in our ongoing nationally funded contemporary art programming. And so March 20th, we're going to have a fundraiser that, as the looks of it right now, programmatically will become a big dance party by the end of the evening. And so, and then possibly an even larger noise performance. So it'll be 3 different types of events for our 3 different most important constituents. Nassim Makadam, who we're really excited to be working with. We've been kind of thinking about this exhibition for a couple of years now. It was on hold, and she was the first person we reached out to when we knew that we had this opening. And so we're really excited to figure out what we can do installation-wise in the bigger space. And that will be up through the beginning of May, and there will be an artist talk, I think on April 13th, if that date is correct. So the next time we have one of these, it will probably be upstairs in a totally new configuration, and hopefully we'll be learning from that and get it all figured out. So I hope to see you guys at some of those events. We have cards for everything on the little card kiosk on the hallway to the bathrooms. So do any of you guys have questions, or do you guys have questions for each other? We can go for a little while longer if you guys are all up for it.
I'm yet to see most of the work. I've been watching Stephanie.
Yes.
I feel it's very meditative.
Yes.
But the others I haven't, so I probably want to see it first and then.
Any of you guys? Okay, well maybe I'll have to come up with one. I think I'll go with one more since we're a little light on questions. I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I mean, it was one of the things that was most striking as we started to put it together, particularly Kiana's work, and I feel like I feel like you guys, the work is very poetic, but uses the aggressive editing and a variety of tactics of your performance, and it becomes very aggressive, and then kind of seeds back to a calmness. And I think that short looping video work can address emotionality in a very different way than cinema can. And there's something about generating a space that is open to contemplation and really speaks to a moment and emotion. And a lot of you use different tactics. Some of you are using comedy. Obviously, there's sound is a huge quality. And I just would love for you guys to hear about like the focus with which you put on generating an emotional state through the duration of your relatively short pieces. Again, they're not made for captive audiences. We aren't showing these in a cinema. They are something that people are kind of passing in and out of. And so, what does it mean to kind of generate emotion on a short loop?
So I mean, it was kind of challenging to kind of think about how to sort of generate that affect. And I wasn't sure until much later whether there would be any affect, because you have, I mean, the first time someone came and told me that even after watching that video, I was in that state and I was trying to do what that woman was doing, and although I did not really understand all the emotions. So then I kind of understood that I was able to translate the idea that I had. But I think a lot also happened during the editing. So when we were filming, we had an idea of what to do. It should be closed space and the face should be in focus. But there was also audio, and then there was also voiceover. But I think in the final stages of editing, I decided that there should be no audio, there should be no sound, so that the focus is only on this face emoting, or face showing these different emotions. And it's just, and the audio is very limited to her saying what that emotion is, and nothing else. So that was a decision towards the end that we made, so that the emotion would come out more stronger, because there's no audio, and you're forced to look at the face as it were. So that's something that, I mean, I think it's, for different people it would probably be different, but it was just repeatedly watching it and then figuring out what would work and how to bring out that idea that you started working with initially. So it was just a lot of going back and forth.
You kind of spoke a little bit. Are you more of a traditional filmmaker?
So I do short videos. This is the first time I'm doing something like an installation. So it's more of traditional short videos and documentaries, and this is the first experimental piece that I did. So this is new. So I was just trying. I mean, I just had an idea which just wouldn't fit into a narrative piece.
Right.
So it actually started off as a story. There were characters and dialogues, but it didn't feel right, because we were just moving away from the original idea of affect and just making a piece that the viewers or the audience could engage in. It became a story then. So then, you know, towards the end, I think there was like a lot of rewriting and re-editing, and finally, I kind of made it into this piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to like I saw Steve McQueen interview one time where somebody, the person interviewing him asked him about, you know, what does he think about story, and he's like, story, everything's a story. This bottle of water is a story. Like he's like, I'm trying to like generate feeling. He kind of like was so insulted by like story being the driving force of his work. He's a little salty anyway, but I think there's something that again that the short looping video can really speak to this, like an emotional moment. A longer.
Longer. Well, for this one, since it was longer, actually originally it was much longer because the process just took way longer than I originally anticipated. But I was thinking about, you know, making something that rather than wanting people to sit there for like an hour and watch it, wanting them to like go back and forth to it, and just see the change over time. And for me, it was also like very new and experimental. So I wanted something that being just like a really close crop of the body and like removing the head and everything else, so that people can maybe like relate to it on a more personal basis. And for me, it was, I didn't know how it's gonna turn out and how people would react. So it's been interesting to see it exist, you know, in relationship to other pieces. So thanks for that opportunity.
The way in which you guys are using time and edit in your film to create emotion in such a short period of time and kind of tell a story without it, for sure.
Yeah, we really wanted to focus on just communicating the feeling and emotions, and not really, I mean, we really didn't have much of a story, but we were really focusing on the tone, the feeling, and like trying to convey that viscerally through the editing and how it was shot.
Yeah.
And especially Sophia's performance.
Yeah, I think we also played a lot with like the speed in which like these emotions develop. We thought a lot about like how fast, how like intense should it be? Should it be like a slow build up? I think really like controlling that like environment for the viewer is really important to us. The only other time we showed this film, I actually create like more like an installation for it. So it was by itself in a red room. But it's a 2-channel video, so the screens are on the opposite side of each other, and the audience would sit in the middle, constantly having to look back and forth. So it really amplified the urgency and the anxiety of it. So I think
and the feeling of like entrapment and suffocation.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So this was definitely like a different way to show it. We're so excited to hear what people have to think about that.
Cool, I'd love to see the installation again. I mean, that sounds really compelling. I mean, the moments of, especially the flickering back and forth and the way in which the channels interact is really wonderful.
Thank you.
Let's go with Amelie.
Yeah, this work, you know, in terms of emotion, not necessarily within the subject matter, although there's strength there, but I work like in an extremely strict editing structure, especially with this piece. The work is actually, it's edited to 80 beats per minute. There's a music component, just structurally. So it's meant to have a rhythm, and 80 beats per minute is somewhat of like a heart rate. You could actually take a metronome in the space and set it up at 80 beats per minute and watch cuts and everything exactly on the beat. I've done a lot of research about like neuroscience of and how music affects people's body in terms of like tempo, sort of cadence and flow. And I'm really interested in how those components can affect a viewer's body and make them feel things. So with this project specifically, because the sound is so intense, like hoping like viewers really feel it inside of their body, you know, like corporeally. And I'm hoping that like emotion comes out through that tempo. The tempo, it's not like when people go see it, it's not literal. You know, you're not hearing exact, but I'm hoping that people feel it and it will make them, I don't know, it will stir up something inside of them.
Have you shown it in full 5-channel with the
No.
No, you're waiting?
My dream come true. So now single channel. So it's one long sort of horizontal work, and it doesn't function well like that, right?
Right.
But like the dream, and I think this is maybe a lot of artists' dreams. You know, you get this big warehouse space, you've got like 5 projectors, enormous screens, and the viewer is totally minuscule, and the work is gigantic. Because, you know, obviously, like when a viewer feels small like that, there's something that comes out in the work of it being like enveloping, of course, but also when I think when we're made to feel small,
Right.
something is like in ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But so 5 channels is like the dream.
Okay. Well, let's find a place for it.
Right.
Let's all think about it.
Yeah, everybody think about it. Let me know. There's a proposal sort of out there in the world.
Cool.
Working toward.
Thank you. Stephanie, I mean the 9, so have you've shown this in the full 9-channel before?
That, yes, that was, since again, the barrier of technology, right? Because that it's intended to be shown in 9 video monitors in a room. It's very few venues that have 9 monitors that are all the same, that are just kind of lying around that you can use for So it's always that, right? The barriers of access to tech. But, you know, it functions in both ways, that piece exists as a single channel installation, and it also sometimes exists as multiple portraits. That if it's going to be shown somewhere and there's one monitor, then it becomes a series of portraits one after another. And if it's shown in a venue that there are multiple monitors that can be installed, that they become singular portraits. So it's, and with that particular piece, that I'm excited to see how it evolves. It's almost like those barriers in technology create an interesting opportunity to see how it functions in different ways. I'm really excited about that. That's not often that I have a piece that works that way, that they're usually pretty fixed in terms of form. But for whatever reason, this has been that piece that it's very fluid in how it wants to exist, and I've just sort of let it go in that direction and see how it changes and how it evolves over time. And to answer your question that you were talking about, these connections between emotion and sound, that most of my work that I was kind of doing previous to this piece and then immediately after, I started in the world of single channel video, and sort of based on kind of where I was in the environment where I was working, I shifted gears into the world of large scale interactive public art pieces. And that sort of opened up a whole new avenue of thinking about what happens when media becomes interactive, that it's not fixed in terms of the experience. And with this one, I do think of it as interactive, but in a very, very subtle way, that the interaction is how, that when the viewer approaches this piece and engages with it, that the interaction becomes how you are sort of, like I had said before, like how you're pushed back into your body, and it's sort of this awareness that you start to have. So it's very sort of sneaky and subtle in how it becomes interactive. But I thought that was very interesting, and for a lot of my work, that I think I've only, of the years that I've been doing this, I think I've only sort of accidentally done 2 things that were narrative only. That typically not the way that my brain works. That I like to think about how can I pare something down to its very, to its bone, like this sort of core meaning of whatever subject that I'm dealing with. And so it's a kind of this reducing of elements and pieces, and I think that's definitely one of the pieces. And in a lot of previous works that were sort of the smaller, intimate ones, that I love this idea of like short loops. I'm very intrigued by that in this world of gifts, right? Instead of this like hour-and-a-half long narrative, what can I say if I pare something down to this like bare bones, bare minimum, and really like this reducing. So that's kind of something I'm thinking about now of how instead of, you know, again, like this world of gifts, I'm very excited about this, of like micro cinema and micro media sort of loops and ways of thinking of, and particularly how it can be, and I agree, how it can be very emotionally impactful of embracing that element of reduction.
Thank you. John and Meltham, kind of the emotional journey of the character, or at least, geez, you know, I think, I mean, I'd love for you guys to speak to it. I mean, I feel like the emotional journey in that piece is the audience. I feel like there's not like the character itself is in the loop, just stuck in the loop, and we go on the gamut of confusion and feeling sorry for them, followed by laughter. You know, I think there's a lot going on. Can you guys talk about that?
Yeah. So we wanted to use it. The character is one element, the sound is another element, or you know, color is another element. That's how we come up with the creation process. So I always wanted to be using this bass sound as in the film, you know, this fan sound, like really thrilling and disturbing, like woo, 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 woo. And it's like reminds me of this, you know, this thing sucking on your chest and you're like uncomfortable or like stressed. And I find it very interesting that, you know, that little physical like stresses or things like your jaw is like stressed when you're anxious or whatever. That kind of, you know, little physical things, how could it turn into a sound or a rhythm? That was the main research we've been trying to do. And, you know, like, you can talk about this movements thing. So we also wanted to create this distorted movement style.
Well, the body movements.
To create rhythm.
Yeah, the body movements are really creating the rhythm, and the characters' movements are actually the movement is talking. So all the movement is figure out one. I don't know, mood, maybe we can say mood, or feeling, maybe.
Yeah, emotions.
Emotions,
creating
yeah.
emotions, maybe.
And maybe we can talk about the color. And we use the different colors in the video, and the atmosphere is really created with separated with the colors. We can understand it. Okay, the atmosphere is so dark, and we are feeling something. But when we go the other thing, it's a different thing to us.
You know, like the virtuality seems colorful in the film.
We created contrast.
Yeah, in when you look at the virtual, like the YouTube, like I don't know when welcome to my channel, it's like more colorful. We represent the real world, but you say like which is the real? You know, like it seems so dark for all the other parts. So like we try to give this like stuck feeling between these two things, which is a good or bad thing. I mean, because we don't have to say it's just a negative thing.
And the colors is not just technical colors. I separate my face with makeup because first time being so a strange thing. But other one, our reality or the influencer reality, again being so a strange fate because
Right.
the woman has half makeup and feelings.
Yeah. Also, like we like became a finalist in this short film contest. So we were thinking, you know, we didn't create it as a loop video,
Yeah.
but the whole idea was giving the feeling of a loop. In the beginning, we were thinking like, should we not finish the film video like this? Should we like put the fan again? You know, like
Right.
the idea that it becomes a loop by itself, but you know, maybe it's like underlining it too much. We thought so. Like it's a other. Like, I would like to see this as a loop. I wish I was there. Like
Yeah. No, as a well, I mean,
it's so different.
I think
You know, like that was our intention, but like make a short film, but also works in this way too, because of its content, you know.
as a loop, it works very, very well because even if you only catch it, if you pick it up in the middle, and then get to that final shot, and then when it starts over, it starts to there's an amount of confusion every time you watch it, no matter what, of watching that transition, and I think it's really successful. It's very compelling. It was one of the ones that haunted me very early in the jurying process. Because I mean, it's like 20 hours of watching videos at random, and then to have them all of yours stood out. Obviously, that's why you're in the exhibition. But to have one of them that was just so bizarre, like I can't even believe what I saw. It felt really good. So thank you so much. I want to thank Arzu Zabai and who was the other that's not here? Olivia left here. Oof, that's a tough one. For participating in this exhibition, but not being able to make it to this talk. And I thank all of you guys for being here and participating in this first artist talk in our new space. And thank you guys, those that made the trip, and those of you who, despite time zone difficulties, managed to make this happen. So thank you all so much. I hope you all find each other online and check out each other's work on the web. And we'll try to document the show very well and get some video up so that you guys can, those of you that couldn't make it in person, can see what the experience was a little bit. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are we just up from here?